On a dark, cold winter night, Sarah sat alone in her old house, inherited from her grandmother. The house stood in an ancient neighborhood, with narrow alleys and old clay houses, carrying tales and secrets hundreds of years old. As midnight approached, the wind howled fiercely outside the old windows. She heard a strange sound coming from the upstairs, a sound of light footsteps and slow movement. At first, she tried to convince herself it was just the wind, but the sounds continued steadily. Sarah decided to go upstairs to check the source of the sound. She carried her phone as a source of light, beginning to ascend the old wooden staircase. Each step creaked beneath her, as if the house itself warned her against continuing.
As she reached the top floor, the darkness was complete, except for the pale moonlight filtering through a large window. Suddenly, she saw something that made her heart skip a beat, a shadow of an old woman moving across the wall, but the room was empty.
Who's there?
No answer came, but a distant humming continued. As she approached, the humming grew clearer. It was an old song, the same one her grandmother used to sing to her as a child. Suddenly, the room's temperature dropped noticeably. Her breath became visible in the frigid air. She felt movement behind her and turned slowly to find herself face to face with an old woman in a long black dress. She looked just like her grandmother, but her face was ghostly pale, and her eyes were completely black. Sarah tried to scream, but no sound came out. She attempted to flee, but her feet were glued to the spot.
"I've come back, my dear, to take you with me."
The old woman's hand reached toward her, whispering promises of reunion. In that moment, her phone abruptly shut off, and the room was swallowed by darkness. Sarah screamed as loudly as she could, but her cry vanished into the stormy wind. The next morning, when the neighbors came to check on Sarah after hearing screams in the night, they found the house completely empty. Everything was in its place, but Sarah had vanished without a trace. The only thing they found was an old photograph on the bedroom table, a picture of her grandmother as a young woman, with the shadow of an old woman smiling eerily behind her. They say that those who pass by the house on certain nights hear an old song echoing through its rooms. Sometimes they see two shadows moving behind the windows, a shadow of an old woman and a shadow of a young girl, dancing together in the eternal night. Since then, the house has been abandoned, standing tall in the old neighborhood, holding within its walls the secrets of Sarah's disappearance, waiting for its next victim. For anyone who approaches on cold winter nights, hears the hum of an old woman singing a sad song, inviting passers-by to enter, to stay, forever. The end. And from that moment on, the house waits.